Welcome to Electronic Warfare, the subject delivered by Dauda Swili. This is the first lecture and an introductory lecture. The widespread and continuous development of information technology, and especially wireless communications, has brought about a lot of positive developments, both in terms of military and civilian operations. It has also resulted in increased threats and risks. Wireless means of communications can be tampered with and manipulated in such a way that can cause havoc within a nation, whether targeting individuals or infrastructure, and that's whether military or civilian, or even both. The wireless communications make use of the electromagnetic spectrum, which nations depend on, using highly integrated, high-speed electronic systems across cyberspace, geospace, and space. The electromagnetic spectrum was defined by Schneider as a continuum of the whole electromagnetic waves arranged according to wavelength and frequency. Electromagnetic energy is radiated at varying wavelengths from celestial bodies at the speed of light, which is about 300,000 kilometers per second. On their own part, the Space Telescope Science Institute described the electromagnetic spectrum as all types of light, including those not visible to the human eye, and most of them are not. The light visible to the human eye is made up of the rainbow colors. The electromagnetic spectrum is divided into 7 parts, and their wavelengths are inversely proportional to their energy and frequency. The energy and frequency are directly proportional. These include radio waves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet light, X-rays, and gamma rays. Now this figure displays the electromagnetic spectrum. Here we see the wavelength in meters. So here is longer and here is shorter, and we can see the frequencies as well, the frequencies and the energy. The frequency measured in waves per second and energy in electron volts. I mean, both the frequency and energy are lower to the left and higher to the right, directly varying with the wavelength, which is longer to the left and shorter to the right. So we see the light waves, we see the waves that make up the electromagnetic spectrum. And we have the radio waves, which are used for radio communications, like the AM radio, FM radio, a radio frequency cavity. We have the microwave, which are used of course in microwave ovens and radar. We have the infrared, the visible light, which is used in light bulbs. Ultraviolet light, used usually used in night vision for ultraviolet light vision. Similarly, the infrared tool is used for night and also for remote control. Holding some for communication used to be used for communication between mobile devices, phones, computers, like that. Not a very common feature these days. We have the X-rays, which are soft and hard. Of course, they are used for, and the X-rays are used in X-ray machines, which are familiar. And then we have the gamma rays. So we see here, the radio waves have the highest wavelength, but lowest frequency and energy, while gamma rays have the highest frequency and energy, but the shortest wavelength. So the electromagnetic spectrum can be used to protect a nation and its infrastructure from an attack by an adversary by way of detection of the attack, thwarting the attack, or going on the offensive. The reverse is also the case. The adversary can use the electromagnetic spectrum against the nation. Hence, there is a need to be well prepared for potential attacks using the electromagnetic spectrum. Thus, you should be prepared against being attacked through the electromagnetic spectrum. Having superior electromagnetic spectrum capability can be an advantage, but that might not necessarily be the best preparation. So the use of the electromagnetic spectrum for defense or offense or detecting an attack in a conflict, a military conflict, is referred to as electronic warfare. Since the earliest 20th century, electronic warfare has been almost a staple in modern warfare. Electronic warfare was defined by Encyclopedia Britannica as the strategic use of tactics related to the electromagnetic spectrum against an enemy in a military conflict. Von Spreckelsen offered NATO's definition of electronic warfare, which is a military action that actively and passively exploits electromagnetic energy to provide situational awareness and create offensive and defensive effects. The electromagnetic spectrum is vital for modern communication, especially in battle situations. The manipulation of the electromagnetic spectrum is the main point of electronic warfare. The manipulation is to protect infrastructure or to be used against an adversary in an offensive manner. Reconnaissance missions can be carried out by nation states or any other adversary through passive monitoring of electromagnetic waves, for example using network sniffers to observe network traffic, flying aerial vehicles, manned or unmanned, towards borders of hostile states to get radar data, and so on. These can be used to understand the capabilities of the adversary, hence create awareness on being alert against them, and also provide for how to attack or thwart their infrastructure. Electronic warfare is used for three reasons: offense or attack, defense or protection, and support measures. The electromagnetic spectrum can additionally be used to disseminate information in such a way that an adversary is misled or put in a state of confusion. This can be achieved through using decoys, sending false signals, or even transmitting misleading information through airwaves like TV, radio, and through cyberspace like using various social media platforms. So information warfare, psychological warfare, and cyber warfare can be seen as subsets of electronic warfare. Although there are varying opinions as to that, some would regard these to be independent of electronic warfare. That is to say that they are not part of electronic warfare, but they are separate. Cyber warfare especially is usually considered to be separate from electronic warfare as it applies to network communications, taking advantage of system flaws and using manipulative techniques like social engineering to gain access to target systems. While electronic warfare has traditionally focused on managing the electromagnetic spectrum to one's advantage for defense, offense, detection, and degradation of an adversary's electromagnetic spectrum use. However, as Stevens argued, all area networks utilizing wireless communications, whether like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, utilize the electromagnetic spectrum. And furthermore, networks connected via coaxial cable or fiber optic cables transfer data by way of electrical circuits, which are waves of voltage and current. These waves and current, of course, are electromagnetic waves. So this led Stevens to conclude that the difference between cyber and electronic warfare was just the medium used to transfer signals. Because if, for example, the US Army has a separate unit for electronic warfare and cyber warfare, although they are working at collaborating. Next slide, we see a summary of electronic warfare. So if you look here, we see a summary of electronic warfare, how it can be used. So we have the various uses of the electromagnetic spectrum here. You see that for missile warning systems, satellite communications, space operations, PNT signals, ISR, satellite communications, commercial satellite communications, so on. So we have air operations, radar for aircraft. This is showing radar for an electronic attack, command of guided missiles, communications in an electronic attack. That's radar. We have GPS aided bombs that were used in the 1991 Gulf War in Iraq. That we have here civilian cellular networks, the mobile networks, which can be manipulated in electronic warfare. We have here too the civil media broadcasts, the FM, AM radio, TV signals. That's WiMAX. That's also a wireless communications for internet connections and so forth. So many things here: jamming, signal intelligence, cyber warfare. See that? High power microwaves and so on. These are Dazzler, civilian air radar, and so on. Just a summarized pictorial rendition of electronic warfare. In the next lecture, we look at historical developments of electronic warfare.